Hello, I'm Rexray and welcome to another episode on Ray Reports. Now, the President of Ghana, Nana Akufo Addo, said Europe should officially apologize to Africa. Let's just take a listen to what exactly the President of Ghana, Nana Akufo Addo, said, and then we'll come and digest why he was making such calls.
Let me state that the subject of restitutions must go along with the matter of reparations. No amount of money can restore the damage caused by the transatlantic slave trade and its consequences, which have spanned many centuries. But nevertheless, it is now time to revive and intensify the discussions about reparations for Africa. Indeed, the time is long overdue. If reparations can rightfully be paid to victims of the Holocaust, so reparations can be paid to the victims of the slave trade. And even before these discussions on reparations conclude, the entire continent of Africa deserves a formal apology from the European nations involved in the slave trade for the crimes and damage it has caused to the population, psyche, image, and character of Africans the world over. The Caribbean community, CARICOM, has unequivocally announced its demand for the payment of reparations. And I would urge us to engage with our kith and kin from the diaspora and form a united front to advance the cause of reparations. I'm happy to announce that Ghana has been chosen by the African Union to host, in the latter part of this year, a global conference on reparations for Africa, which will seek to bring together Africans and members of the African diaspora and family of all hues and perspectives to set out a concrete strategy for achieving the goal of reparations. I commend the Open Society Foundation for this event, being held under the theme African Heritage Restitution Movement, which is calling for the return of African cultural materials. It is wholly fitting that these deliberations should take place at this center, named after one of the iconic figures of Pan-Africanism, W.E.B Dubios, a man who dedicated his life to the defense and promotion of the interests of black people everywhere, especially of those in the African diaspora of the Americas and the Caribbean. He was a towering intellectual figure in the great battles for freedom for black people in the 20th century, work which commended him to the regard of Ghana's first president, the celebrated Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who offered him Ghanaian nationality and residence. Indeed, he ended his life here, and his remains are buried in these premises to signify his eternal association with our historic goals of realizing freedom and justice for ourselves and for all black people. He would have been in total sympathy with the aims of our gathering today, and that is why it is appropriate for us to have this discussion in the Dubios Centre. The restitution, return, reparation, and repatriation of stolen and looted African cultural properties under pre-colonial and colonial circumstances have to be issues of major concern to all Africans. These concerns have in recent times dominated public discourse on the continent. Governments, civil society groups, traditional authorities, scholars and researchers have called for the return of African cultural properties that were illegally and shamelessly transported from the continent. I support fully the initiative for the return and reparation of African cultural properties to the continent, as it will help Africans, and in particular, the descendants of the communities, groups, and individuals who created and produced these cultural properties to reconnect to their history, to their pioneers, to their knowledge, and their skills. This reconnection of the past and the present will also help to build new relations with the international community, especially that of Europe, which was principally responsible for the original thefts of the cultural properties. Most of these cultural properties, when returned, will also offer Africans an opportunity to develop local knowledge of the technological, cultural, social, and aesthetic value of the objects. Being mindful of the complexities of the repatriation and restitution process and the sensitivity of the holders and potential recipients of illegally acquired properties, Ghana's Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture has set up a national focal team on restitution and repatriation to research and advise on international best practices and guidelines that will support the country in the restitution process. Ladies and gentlemen, my government's vision is in line with the aspiration of Africa's Agenda 2063, which envisages an Africa with strong cultural identity, common heritage, shared values, and ethics. It calls for a flowering of Pan-Africanist ideals, tapping into Africa's rich heritage and culture to enhance the continent's development. The restitution of cultural properties is not without tension and contestation, as it requires the establishment of true ownership and provenance of the cultural properties to be returned and repatriated. To ensure that the restitution processes do not evoke undue contestation and tension, it is important for state and non-state institutions, activist groups, and local community leaders to work in partnership with their international counterparts based on mutual trust and respect. This will involve dialogue, negotiation, and consensus building at all levels. I'm aware that countries such as Senegal, Nigeria, and Benin have managed successfully to regain possession of some of their cultural properties that were illegally moved out of their territories. Ghana has also successfully restituted some of its stolen cultural properties and relics. For example, in 2008, the government of Ghana collaborated with the elders of Ahanta to return the severed head of Nana II, who was executed in 1838. Other success stories include the return of some family collections of the Ashanti royal family and an Ashanti stool in 1985 by the British government. In conclusion, I want to reiterate that this initiative by the Open Society Foundation is an important one, as it will contribute to the various efforts on the continent to ensure that African cultural properties are successfully returned to the continent and its rightful owners. I would therefore encourage the Foundation to support Ghana's national focal team and other similar teams, institutions, and committees on the African continent to undertake detailed research to support this restitution movement in Africa. And I thank you very much for your attention.
So that was the President Nana Akufo Addo speaking there. He was speaking at the African Cultural Heritage Restitution Movement, which was held earlier today in Accra. The goal of this movement is to bring together leading experts and communities that will ask key questions which will continue to advance and build resilience and sustainable restitution movements. The participants were from African Union, ECOWAS, civil society groups, academia, creative communities, NGOs, United Nations agencies, and of course, the African diaspora. So this has been the conversation that African countries are championing to bring back their cultural heritage. What do you make of this cause? Let's get interactive in the comment section. I'm Rex Ray, and this is Ray Report. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode. Peace out.
So what I'm going to